I'd like to welcome you to the Oregon Vital Records training on how to enter the medical portion of a death record electronically in OVERS. I'll also be covering how to certify the death record, as well as how to amend a registered record. In most cases, death records are started by the funeral home. After the funeral director completes their portion, they will submit a request for medical certification. The medical certifier will receive an email notification letting them know that they have a death record that needs to be completed. The email will include the decedent's name and date of death. After receiving the notification, the first step is to log into OVERS. A username and a password will be sent to medical certifiers after their OVERS enrollment has been processed. So I'll just click Login. Now, if a medical certifier is set up at multiple facilities, they'll need to select which office they're signing in for. If they're only associated with one facility, they'll be brought to the user acknowledgement. The user acknowledgement basically states that OVERS is a secure system and activities are being monitored, and it also cautions anyone to not share usernames and passwords. After accepting the acknowledgement, you'll be taken to the OVERS homepage. The homepage has several tabs across the top with different drop-down options, as well as fast links. And these links will appear once some of the options from above have been clicked on a few times. Now, the first thing you'll want to do is locate the record that you need to complete. And to do that, you'll click on Main and then Current Activities. Current activities will bring you to the queues, and there are 3 possible queues that you may see. Don't worry if you don't see all of them, because you'll only see a queue if there are actually records in that particular queue. And all of the records requested to be completed by a funeral director will be sent to the medical certification requested queue. So if you'll click on that queue, then you'll see a list of records that need to be completed. Now, these records are not necessarily for the user that logged in. These are the records for your entire facility. So at this point, you can check your email to see which one of these records has been assigned to you. Now, to go into the record, what you would do is you can click on either the case ID number or the decedent's name. When you do that, you will be taken to the record for that particular decedent. Here you can see the death registration menu on the left-hand side, and the death record is made up of 2 different sections. The personal information, which has been entered by the funeral director, and then the medical portion of the record. The page always defaults to the decedent, and you can see the decedent's information entered. This is what was entered by the funeral director. As you can see, it's grayed out, so you are not able to make any changes to this page, but you'll be able to view the information just to make sure you have the correct decedent. If you click Next at the bottom, you'll be taken to the next page in the record, which is the resident address page. And again, this information has been entered by the funeral director. So I'll click Next one more time, and that'll take us to the medical certification section of the record. And the first page is the pronouncement page. Now, this information may have already been entered by the funeral director, and if the information is correct, then you can just go ahead and click Next to go to the next page. If the information hasn't been entered, you'll need to complete that. So you'll put in the time of death, and there's a drop down for AM, PM, or military time. And then there are 2 modifiers on this page. One's for the date of death, and we have a drop down where you can select actual date of death, approximate date, and so on. And the same thing for the time of death. Now, before I go on, I want to talk about the buttons that you'll see at the bottom of every page in OVERS. So this first button, the Validate Page button, what that does is it will do an error check and it's on the entire record. Although it says validate page, it actually validates the entire record. So we recommend clicking on that button after all of the data has been entered. There's a next button. That will take you to the next page in the record, but it will also save all the information entered on the page. We do have a save button, but you don't need to click save as long as you're clicking next. There's a clear button to clear out the information you've entered, and then there's a return button. Now the return button is not a back button. It actually takes you completely out of the record. So if you need to go to a prior page, you can click on the page from the menu on the left-hand side. However, when you do that, make sure you go ahead and click save, because the system will only automatically save the information when you click next. So I'm going to click next, and that'll take us to the place of death page. So here we can see the place of death page. Now this page is generally filled out by the funeral director. However, I've left it blank just to show you a few of the things that OVERS does. So first of all, we have a type of place of death drop down. So you want to click on that drop down and say that the decedent passed away at home. If I select decedent's residence, then the address will automatically populate from the information that was entered by the funeral director. If the decedent, say, passed away at the hospital, then the facility name that the doctor's associated with is going to appear in the facility name, and the address is already entered for the medical certifier. However, if the decedent passed away, say, at a different facility, you can actually do a search for that facility and make a change. Even though it's grayed out, in OVERS, wherever you see a magnifying glass, that means you can change the information. So if I click on that magnifying glass, and then I can search for a new facility. And when you search for a new facility or do any other searches within OVERS, we have a wildcard symbol, which is the %sign. So all you have to do is type a couple of letters of the facility name in this case, and then enter the %sign and click search. When you do that, any facility that meets that criteria is going to come up. And then if you click select, then that facility's address information will automatically populate there for you. Now, once the place of death page is complete, we'll click next. After clicking next, you'll be taken to the cause of death page. And the cause of death page has two different parts. So there's part 1, and part 1 is made up of several different lines. Part 1, line A, is to enter the immediate cause or the final disease or condition resulting in death. Also, on this page, you would enter the approximate interval to the onset of death. So in this column over here, you would enter that interval. Now, part 1, line A, is for that immediate cause, but there are additional lines available for other conditions that led up to that immediate cause. Now, although there are 4 lines, not all of the lines need to be used, but if there are those underlying conditions that led up to the immediate cause, then you can go ahead and list them on those lines. There's also a part 2 where any other significant conditions can be entered. Those would be significant conditions contributing to death, but not resulting in the underlying cause that's given in part 1. Now, on the cause of death page, it's very important to make sure that everything is entered correctly, spelled correctly. This is the only page in OVERS that has a check spelling button down at the bottom. Also, we ask that you don't abbreviate and you don't enter things like old age. Now, if you're not sure how to enter cause of death information, we do have some additional resources available to you. Feel free to reach out to our partner services team and we can get those resources for you. After entering all of the cause of death information, then you'll want to click Next, and that'll take you to the Other Factors page. The next page is the Other Factors page, and this is where you'll indicate whether or not an autopsy was performed. And then if the decedent is female between 10 and 65, you'll specify pregnancy status. You'll indicate whether or not tobacco use contributed to death. And then you'll indicate the manner of death. So in most cases, medical certifiers will only be certifying natural deaths. Accidental deaths do need to be referred to a medical examiner. Now, the medical examiner may refer it back to you after they've reviewed the case, but for this example, we're going to choose natural because that's the most common one that you'll be using. So I'll put that the case was not referred to a medical examiner. After completing the Other Factors page, you'll click Next, and that will take you to the Injury page. And the Injury page is for those accidental deaths. So for natural deaths, this page can be left completely blank. So I'll click Next again, and that will take us to the Certifier page. On the Certifier page, you can see that the license number, name, and address information is already populated for you. Now, if for some reason the doctor that's assigned to the record is not able to complete it, then they can actually assign it to a new certifier. And to do that, you would click on the magnifying glass next to certifier name, and then search for another certifier. So all you would have to do is enter a portion of the last name, and then you can use the wildcard symbol, that percent sign, and then click search. The search results will come up, and then you can select the new certifier that's going to complete this record. So if you just click select, then their information will automatically populate there for you. Now at this point, if you notice at the bottom of the page, there's no next button. That means we are on the last page of the record. So this is the time that we are going to do the error checking for the record by clicking the validate page button. So I'll click validate page here. And once OVERS goes through its error checking process, you'll notice that the pages on the death registration menu, some of them have green check marks, so you know those pages are fine. And then within OVERS, we have two types of errors you may see. One is represented by the yellow caution sign, and we call that type of an error a soft edit, and soft edits can be overridden. And the other type is represented by the red X. So I'm just going to click on the Other Factors page and see what type of error came up. So here we are back on the Other Factors page, and within OVERS, whenever there's any type of an error, you'll see it highlighted. In this case, it's yellow because it's one of those soft edits. And at the bottom of the page, you'll see validation results with an error message. Now, for these types of soft edits, you're basically being asked if the information in a particular field is correct. So if the information is correct, then you can go ahead and override this particular error. You can see there's an override column here. All you have to do is put a check mark in that box and then click Save Overrides. Now, for this particular field, if female between 10 and 65, and the pregnancy status is either pregnant at the time of death, not pregnant, but pregnant within 42 days of death, or not pregnant, but pregnant 43 days to 1 year before death, you will always get one of these soft edits, and we're basically just trying to confirm that the information entered is correct. So once you've clicked override, and again click the Save Overrides button, then you'll have addressed that particular issue. Next, let's see what our issue is on the Certifier page. So I'm just going to click on Certifier. On the certifier page, again, any error is going to be highlighted so you can see the certifier type. We've got a red highlight there, and you'll see validation results at the bottom telling you what the issue is saying that this field can't be blank, and there's no override option. So that tells us that we do have to correct this item. So all we need to do is make a selection here. And in Oregon, a physician, a physician's assistant, or a nurse practitioner can all certify a death record. So I'll choose the correct type here. Now, once you've made any corrections on a record, you do need to go through that validation process one more time just to make sure that all errors have been taken care of. So you'll click Validate Page, and it'll do the error checking process. And if you notice now, our certifier page has a green check mark next to it. Now the other factors page still has that yellow caution sign, but that's okay. That's just an indicator to employees at the Center for Health Statistics that there was an item that was overridden. And you will know that all of the errors have been addressed because a new link will appear, the Certify link. And that link will only appear once all of the data has been entered and you've passed that validation process. So at this point, you want to click on the Certify link, and you'll see 3 affirmation statements that you'll want to read through and check off. The first one is certifying that the death was due to natural causes. Second one is affirming under penalty of perjury that you're the authorized certifier whose name will appear on this certificate. And then the last one is certifying that the death occurred at the time, date, and place indicated. So once you've read through those and checked them off, you click the Affirm button. You'll receive a message saying that the authentication was successful, and you'll also see a black check mark next to Certify. Also, up at the top of every page of the record, there's a status line, and you'll see in that status line that the record does show as certified. So that is the last step to entering a death record. It may sometimes be necessary to make corrections to a death certificate after it's been registered at the state and assigned a state file number. Requesting an amendment in OVERS significantly shortens the processing time necessary to change a death certificate. To enter an amendment, you first have to locate the record in OVERS. After logging in, click on Life Events, Death, Locate Case. Enter the decedent's last name and date of death. And then click Search. Click on the decedent's name. That will take you into their record. And then click on Amendments right below Other Links from the Death Registration menu. Here you'll be taken to the amendment page. Click on the drop-down to select Medical in the Type field, and then click Save. After you've clicked Save, the page will refresh and give you a new field with a drop-down on the page to amend. Click on the page of the record that needs to be amended, and then that information will appear below the screen. In this example, the page to amend was selected as the Other Factors page, and the field that we are changing is Did tobacco use contribute to death? So on that drop-down, I'm going to select the correct option. Once I've done that, then I need to click on Validate Amendment. Once you click Validate Amendment, you will see a message up at the top of the amendment page saying that this amendment has not been affirmed. Please select Amendment Affirmation to affirm the amendment. At this point, you want to click on the Amendment Affirmation link. You'll receive an affirmation statement that you'll need to read through and check off. It states, I affirm under penalty of perjury that I'm the authorized certifier to amend this record, and I certify that this change truthfully reports medical information to the best of my knowledge and is submitted for inclusion on the vital record. So after checking that off and reading it, you click the Affirm button, and you'll receive an authentication successful message. If you click Return, you'll be taken back to the record, and you can view a list of all amendments on the record by clicking on Amendment List. Here you'll see a list of amendments, and all amendments do have to be reviewed and approved by the state. Any amendment that says pending is waiting to be reviewed by the state. If you have any questions about how to enter a death record, please feel free to reach out to our OVERS help desk or the Vital Records trainer. Thank you.